The night always seemed to soften around them, like the world itself knew to quiet down when Ilara and Damien were together. They met in hidden corners of the city where no one knew his name and no one would recognize her face. Rooftop gardens closed to the public, tiny cafes tucked between bookstores, the quiet back room of a flower shop that smelled like roses and rain. They never needed grand gestures. The way he looked at her was enough, warm and unguarded, like he finally stepped out of the cold whenever he saw her. Ilara loved him in the way one breathes, naturally, without thinking. She did not need promises carved into rings or declarations shouted across rooms. She needed the moments no one else saw. Damien sitting cross-legged on her kitchen floor, eating noodles from the pot because they had burned the only clean pan. The way he whispered her name like it meant something sacred. The gentle touch of his fingers brushing hair from her cheek, as though he was memorizing the shape of her. Late at night, when the city lights flickered through her curtains, he would pull her into his arms and say the words that unraveled her defenses. "When I choose you, I choose forever." She believed him, with her whole chest. A whole heart, but forever had shadows. Damien came from a family that measured love the same way they measured investments. Strategic, useful, preserving power. The Hale name meant prestige, expectation, a lineage weighed down by scrutiny and legacy deals. Ilara felt that weight sometimes even when they were alone, like another presence pressing its hand over Damien's shoulder. She didn't speak about it. Love, she thought, could be strong enough to push back entire histories. One evening, when the rain had just begun to fall and the ground smelled like petrichor and change, Damien was summoned home, not asked. Summoned he went. And Ilara waited. Hours later he returned, but he wasn't the same man who had left her that afternoon. He stood in her doorway, like someone who had walked through a battlefield. His shoulders were rigid, his jaw tight, his eyes distant, like he was trying not to feel something too heavy to name. She stepped closer. His silence was louder than thunder. What happened? He didn't answer her immediately. He sat down on her couch as though his bones had turned to iron. "My mother knows about us." Ilara did not flinch. She had always known this moment would come. She had prepared herself for arguments, for disapproval, even for cold attempts to break them apart. But she had not prepared for the severity in his voice when he continued. She said, "I will marry Vera Langston. It has been arranged for years. The families, the businesses. It is already expected. It keeps everything aligned." His mother's words had struck like a knife, leaving him bleeding inside. This isn't about love. It's about legacy. Ilara waited for him to say the one thing that mattered, that he didn't care, that he chose her anyway. That love was the point, not legacy. But Damien's silence stretched, sharp and terrifying. He didn't say he would leave her, but he didn't stand up for her either. He didn't reject his mother's command. He didn't fight. He hesitated, and a hesitation in love is its own kind of betrayal. Ilara felt something inside her chest shift, subtle as a thread coming loose in fabric. Not enough to destroy anything yet, but enough to warn that someday that thread could unravel an entire world. She sat beside him and took his hand, and her voice was steady, only because she forced it to be. "Do you love me?" He looked at her then, really looked, and there was no doubt in his eyes. "I do." But love alone had never been enough for men like him. His family had shaped him from birth, molded him, claimed him. And though he was older now, powerful now, wealthy now, the boy inside him still bowed to their approval. Ilara leaned her head against his shoulder. His cheek rested against her hair. They stayed that way for a long time, the silence growing roots beneath them. It was still love, but love, when left undefended, begins to die, quietly, slowly. Like a candle burning out long before anyone realizes the flame is failing. Days began to pass in a way that did not feel real. Ilara still saw Damien. He still came to her home. He still held her. But something quiet and cold lived between them now. Like a door had been left slightly open, and winter wind was slipping through the crack. He kissed her the same. He said her name the same. But his eyes were different. He had always looked at her like she was the only truth that mattered. Now he looked like a man trying to hold two worlds at once and slowly failing to hold either. Ilara noticed everything. The pauses, the hesitation, the way his phone was always face down now, the way he left earlier than before, the way he always said the same sentence when he walked out her door. "We'll figure this out." Figuring something out should feel active, determined, brave, but his voice sounded tired, trapped, afraid of choosing a path that could not be undone. One evening, they were sitting on the floor beside the window, their shoulders touching. Rain fell outside. The room smelled like candle wax and jasmine. It should have been peaceful. It should have been a moment they would remember forever with warmth. Instead, Ilara spoke softly. "Are you going to marry her?" Damien closed his eyes. His breath left him slowly. He did not say no. He did not say yes. He simply sat there, silent, letting the moment answer for him. Ilara felt something in her chest tighten, a small crack that no one could see, but it was real, bruising and sharp. He reached for her hand, but she pulled it away. She stood up and walked to the kitchen. Her hands were shaking. She tried to wash a glass, even though it was already clean. The water ran over her fingers, but she barely felt it. Damien came behind her. His voice was quiet. "I love you." She turned and looked at him. For a moment she saw the man she had fallen in love with, the one who held her like she was home. But love was not the question anymore. "Do you love me enough to choose me?" His throat moved. His hands opened, closed, opened again. He looked like a man drowning in the weight of his own life. "My family will never accept you. If I refuse the engagement, everything they built collapses. Everything they built." "Not him, not them," Ilara nodded. A slow motion, like someone accepting a truth she had feared for too long. "So I was never meant to stay in your life. I was only ever something to hide." Damien stepped forward. His voice cracked. "No. You were the only thing that ever felt real, but real love with no courage is only a memory waiting to break." The next day, Damien did not come to her apartment. He did not send a message. He did not call. The silence stretched longer than any spoken answer, and in that silence Ilara learned the first lesson of heartbreak. Sometimes the deepest pain is not when someone walks away. It is when they stand right in front of you and choose nothing. She stood at the window and watched the rain fall for hours, her heart heavy, her trust dimming, the world she built with him turning into something fragile and trembling. The seed of heartbreak had been planted, and it had begun to grow. Ilara tried to continue her days as if everything was the same. She went to work. She smiled when she needed to. She walked past mirrors without looking, because she was afraid of what she might see. Her heart felt like a fragile glass object someone had set on the edge of a table. One wrong breath and it would fall. She told herself she would not cry. She told herself she would be strong. But strength is difficult when your world is ending quietly instead of with noise. 3 days passed with no word from Damien. On the 4th day, the world shattered. Ilara was finishing decorations for a charity gala. She worked carefully, placing white orchids along the edge of a stage. Music echoed through the ballroom as the space filled with powerful families. She was only meant to work behind the scenes, but she noticed every detail. The glittering gowns, the polished laughter, the weight of wealth in the air. Then she saw him. Damien. He stood under the chandelier light wearing the suit she had once helped him pick out. His posture was perfect, his expression composed. His hand rested on the back of another woman's chair, Vera Langston. Her beauty was sharp, perfect, practiced, the kind of beauty people build strategically. She looked like she had never struggled for anything, like the world had always been gentle with her. Ilara could not breathe. Then a voice carried across the microphone. It was Damien's mother, smiling, elegant, cold. "We have an announcement tonight. A celebration of legacy and unity." Ilara felt her knees weaken. She braced herself against a table corner. Damien stood. He did not look into the audience. He did not look for her. He spoke clearly and steadily. "I am honored to announce my engagement to Vera Langston." The room applauded. Cameras flashed. Flowers rustled under the weight of the moment. Elara did not move. Her body did not know how. Her heart broke in silence. Then Damien looked up. Just once. His eyes found hers across the crowd. For a second, something raw and terrified flickered in his expression. A silent no. A silent please. A silent, I am sorry, but he did not speak it. He stayed where he stood beside his future. Elara knew if she stayed in that room, she would break apart where everyone could see. So she turned away. She walked through the doors and down the hall. Her steps were steady only because her body was on autopilot. Outside the ballroom, her phone buzzed. A message from Damien. It said only one thing: I will explain. She stared at the words through tears she refused to let fall. She typed back with shaking fingers. You already did. She did not wait for a reply. She left the venue. She walked into the night. Her chest felt hollow and heavy at the same time. Rain began to fall. Cold and unforgiving. Elara walked faster. She held herself. She did not know it yet, but something inside her had already changed. Something was already growing. Something that would tie her to Damien forever. But right now she only knew one thing. The person she had loved had chosen comfort over courage, and she was alone. She walked home under the rain, not realizing her hands had already moved to her stomach. Her body already knew what her heart had not yet discovered. The rain had not stopped by the time Elara reached her apartment. It soaked her hair, her clothes, her skin, but she did not feel cold. She felt nothing at all. She sat on the bathroom floor with the lights off and listened to the storm outside. It sounded like the world grieving with her. Hours passed before she finally stood. Her hands moved on their own. She opened a drawer. She took out the small box she had bought 3 days earlier. She had purchased it quietly, secretly, without letting herself think about why. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped the first test. She did not pray, she did not hope. She simply waited. When the 2 lines appeared, she sat very still. The room was silent except for her breathing, a soft, uneven sound. She took another test, then another, then another, all lined up on the edge of the sink. Positive, positive, positive. Elara covered her mouth with her hand. The first tear fell without permission, not because she was afraid, not because she felt lost, but because life had chosen to grow inside her right when love had died outside her. She whispered into the quiet room, I am not alone. The next day, she tried to call Damien. The call did not go through. She tried again and again. On the 4th attempt, she heard a polite voice. This line has been restricted by request of Mr. Hale. Restricted. He did not even block her himself. Someone else did it for him. She called his office. The receptionist sounded rehearsed. Mr. Hale is unavailable. She left a message. One sentence, please call me. It is important. No reply came. She tried once more. A new voice answered this time. Sharp, controlled. A voice trained to move people aside like chess pieces. This is Lorraine, the executive liaison for the Hale family. Your contact with Mr. Hale is no longer appropriate. Do not call this number again. Elara felt her stomach twist, but her voice stayed steady. Tell him I am pregnant. The silence that followed was long, cold, calculated. Then Lorraine spoke. If you attempt to involve Mr. Hale in this matter, we will handle it legally. You will not benefit from pursuing this. Do you understand? Elara closed her eyes. She understood everything. He knew nothing. But everyone around him had already chosen for him, and he was letting them. Her heart broke again, but this time it did not shatter. It hardened. She left the city 2 weeks later. No goodbye, no forwarding address, no trace. She packed clothes. A few keepsakes. A single photograph of Damien smiling at her kitchen table. She stared at it for a long moment before placing it in a box she did not open again. She moved to a coastal town where the air smelled like salt and the ocean spoke in steady breath. She found a small cottage with peeling paint and crooked shutters. It was quiet. It was safe. She worked 3 jobs. She learned how to stretch $1 in ways she never imagined. She learned how to breathe through nausea. She learned how to sleep sitting up with her hand resting on the tiny growing curve of her stomach. The night she felt the first faint movement inside her, she pressed both hands to her belly and cried again. Not in sadness, not in regret, but in fierce, blazing love. Months passed. Winter softened. Spring arrived with sunlight that touched her windows. And one quiet morning, she gave birth. 2 boys. One entered the world crying loud and strong. This one she named Leo because he came roaring. The second came quieter, looking around as if he had already seen life before. This one she named Miles because he seemed to have traveled a long journey to reach her. Ilara held both of them against her chest. Tiny faces, tiny breaths, tiny hope, she whispered to them. I will protect you. I will give you a life with love, even without him. In that moment she made a promise without speaking it aloud. She would raise them alone. She would never return to Damien's world. She would never allow the past to harm them. She believed she had escaped. She did not know that love, the deep, cannot be buried forever. She did not know that truth always rises like the tide. She did not know that Damien would one day find her, not by accident, but because losing her had never stopped hurting him. Time moved differently in the small town. Days were marked by the sound of the ocean against the rocks and the laughter of 2 small boys who filled every space with life. Leo was bold and curious, always running first, always touching everything. Miles was slower, careful, watching the world before stepping into it. Ilara learned their rhythms. She learned their cries. She learned how to hold one while comforting the other. She learned to live again. She did not speak Damien's name, not even in her mind. She locked it away like a painful memory kept in a drawer that must never be opened. But memories have their own keys. Sometimes a song would play in the grocery store. Sometimes she would see a man in a suit walking along the street. Sometimes she would dream of the way Damien once said her name, soft and warm. She always woke before the ending. She built something honest in that town. A business that began with handwritten invitations and homemade decorations. Word spread. People saw how she turned simple spaces into moments worth remembering. Soon brides asked for her. Soon her calendar was full. She worked late into the night while the boys slept. Tiny feet visible under blankets, small hands curled beside their cheeks. The town embraced her. And more importantly, the town embraced her children. They had a community, a life that was theirs, safe, warm, loved. Meanwhile, far away, Damien Hale's world began to rot. His engagement to Vera did not bring peace. Their marriage was a transaction, signed with champagne smiles and photographs arranged for newspapers. Vera treated him like a symbol, a step in her crown of social accomplishment. Their home was beautiful but empty. Their conversations were polished but hollow. Damien tried to forget Ilara. He buried himself in work. He climbed higher in the company. He spoke at conferences. He shook hands. He signed agreements. And at night, he closed his bedroom door and stared at the ceiling in silence. He did not know why it hurt, only that it did. Then one evening he walked past his mother's study and heard his name whispered too sharply. He paused. Voices came through the crack of the door. Lorraine's voice, the assistant who had once answered Ilara's final call. She said she called again back then. She said she was pregnant. I handled it. You told me to remove the problem. Damien stopped breathing, completely. His mother's reply came cold as marble. Good. That girl would have ruined him. We protected him from himself. He will thank us when this merger is final. Damien pushed the door open. Both women froze. Repeat what you just said. His mother sat straight. Lorraine paled. Damien's voice was low, but it shook the walls. She was pregnant. They did not answer. They did not need to. The truth was already there, burning inside him. His mother spoke first. Her tone was calm. You were young, emotional. She would have destroyed everything we built. You have responsibilities beyond your feelings. Damien did not shout. His voice was quiet. Too quiet. You stole my life. He walked away. He did not pack a suitcase. He did not say goodbye to Vera. He left everything exactly where it was. He drove until the city lights disappeared. The memory of Ilara's last look found him like a blade. You already did. He realized then that love was not the memory. Fading love was the wound still bleeding. He began searching for her, real searching. Not just asking questions, but hiring investigators who specialized in finding people who did not wish to be found. He followed records. He followed whispers. He followed any trace of where she may have gone. For months, he found nothing, until one morning a photograph arrived in his email. A coastal street. A woman holding the hands of two boys as they crossed in front of a bakery, sunlit, ordinary, beautiful. The boys had his eyes. His breath left him, not a slow exhale, but all at once. He knew. Then they were his children. His heart began to race. His hands shook. His world finally snapped into truth. He whispered her name. Into the quiet room. Elara did not feel fear or regret. He felt purpose. He was going to find her, not to beg, not to explain, not to reclaim love, but to see the children who should have never been strangers. He stepped out of his old life without looking back and headed toward the coast, where everything he lost was waiting. The town was quiet the morning Damien arrived. The ocean mist hung low, softening edges of houses and turning the world into something that felt half-remembered. He parked his car near the harbor and stepped out slowly. He was a man returning to a life he had once thrown away without understanding the cost. He walked through the small streets with his hands in his pockets, looking at every face, every shop window, every detail, as if the town might tell him who he needed to become. The air smelled like salt and bread from the bakery on the corner. Seagulls cried above him. Nothing here knew his name. He found her by accident, or maybe fate had been waiting for him. Elara was standing outside a cafe, arranging flowers in a simple glass vase. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes were focused, steady, calm. She looked older, not in age but in strength. A woman who had survived the fire and learned to walk through the ashes. Then two boys ran toward her, one laughing with a bright open smile, the other quieter, staying close, watching the world as if it held secrets only he could see. The moment Damien saw them, he felt something in his chest collapse and rebuild at the same time. His sons, his blood, his beginning and his punishment. He stepped forward. His voice rose before he could stop it. Elara, she froze. The flowers slipped from her hand and hit the ground. For a long moment, no one moved. The cafe noise faded. The street fell silent. Her eyes found his. The same eyes that once looked at him with love so warm it felt like safety. Now they were guarded, sharp. A storm contained behind still water. She spoke slowly. "You do not belong here." Damien stepped closer but stopped when the boys turned. They stared at him with curiosity that felt like knives in his stomach. He did not speak to them. He did not say he was their father. He did not claim what he had once abandoned. He looked only at her. "I came to see you." Her jaw tightened. "No, you came to ease your guilt." "That is not the same thing." He shook his head. His voice was raw. "I found out what happened. I know what my mother did. I know you tried to reach me. I know you were alone. I know I failed you in every possible way." Elara did not look away. She did not soften. There was no tremor in her voice. "You did not fail me. You made a choice. Do not pretend it was anyone else's hand guiding yours." Damien felt the truth hit him with full force. He nodded. "You are right. I chose wrong. I chose fear. I chose the easy path. I chose everything that did not matter. I cannot change that." Her voice was quiet. "No, you cannot." The boys tugged on her sleeves. Leo looked boldly at Damien. "Who is he?" Elara placed a gentle hand on her child's head. "Just someone leaving." Damien's breath cracked. He wanted to reach out. He wanted to kneel. He wanted to tell them everything. But love had rules now. Rules he had earned, one step at a time. "I do not want to take anything from you, Elara. I just want to know them. Even if it takes years. Even if they never call me their father. Even if you never forgive me. I only want to try. To stand where I should have stood from the beginning." Miles watched him with wide, searching eyes. He was too young to understand loss. Yet he saw the way Damien's hands shook. Elara took a slow breath. The wind lifted her hair. Her voice carried the weight of every sleepless night she had survived. "You will not force your way into their lives. You will not break what I have built. You will not make promises and disappear again. If you are here, then you will stay. You will show up. You will stand in the difficult places. You will take no shortcuts. Do you understand me?" Damien's voice was steady. Yes, she nodded once. A permission, a warning, a boundary sharp as glass. Then she walked away with her sons, their small hands in hers, their futures held between them. Damien did not follow, he simply watched, and for the first time in his life he understood that love was not claiming. Love was waiting. Damien did not leave the town. He rented a small room above the old bookstore near the harbor. It was the kind of place where the floorboards creaked when you walked, and the windows let in more wind than they should. He didn't care. He had lived in mansions with marble floors that never felt like home. This quiet room felt closer to truth than any place he had slept in before. He woke every morning before sunrise and sat on the bench outside the cafe where Alara often came with the boys. He didn't approach. He didn't speak. He just watched from a respectful distance, learning their rhythms, the way a man learns what truly matters only after losing it. He noticed the small things, the way Leo always ran ahead first, the way Miles held Ilara's hand longer than his brother did, the way Ilara always checked over her shoulder before crossing the street, protecting them without thinking. Every day he stayed. No demands, no speeches, just presence. At first the town did not trust him. Whispered questions followed him. Why was he here? What did he want? Was he trouble? But days passed and he remained steady. And steady matters more than words. Finally, one morning, Leo walked up to him. No fear, no hesitation. Children recognize sincerity faster than adults. "Why do you sit here every day?" Damien looked down at him. Leo's eyes were so bright, so full of life. "Because I'm waiting for what?" Damien's voice was gentle, for the chance to know you. Leo tilted his head as if he was trying to understand something much larger than the world he knew. Before he could ask more questions, Miles came and took his hand, guiding him back to Ilara. Ilara met Damien's eyes from across the street. Her expression was unreadable. That night, the storm returned. Lightning split the sky. Thunder shook the windows of the town. The kind of storm where trees bend and doors rattle and the ocean roars like something alive. Ilara's lights went out. The power across the neighborhood flickered and died. She moved quickly, lighting candles, making sure the boys were warm. Miles clung to her shirt, frightened. Leo tried to be brave, but the thunder made him jump every time. A knock came at the door. When Ilara opened it, Damien stood soaked in rain, holding a small battery lantern and blankets. He did not step inside. "He did not assume I saw the lights go out. I thought the boys might be scared." Ilara looked at him in the flickering candlelight. Water ran down his face. His clothes clung to his skin. He looked nothing like the polished man she once knew. He looked real, human, bruised. She hesitated. The boys watched her. The storm raged. She nodded. "Come in." Damien entered quietly, placing the lantern on the table. The warm glow spread through the room, soft and gentle. Leo immediately reached for the blankets, wrapping himself and giggling. Miles sat next to Damien, still cautious, still studying. Ilara watched them all. Something inside her chest ached, not with pain, but with something more dangerous. Hope. After the boys finally fell asleep, Damien sat near the window, watching the storm. Ilara stood beside him. "You cannot think this night changes. Everything," his voice was calm. "I know you cannot expect forgiveness because you brought light in a storm. I know you cannot undo what happened." His eyes lifted to hers. "No, but I can choose different now." Ilara felt her breath catch. Not because his words were beautiful, but because they were steady. The storm outside pounded against the house. Thunder shook the walls. Inside, another storm quieted. Damien spoke again, barely above a whisper. "I will stay, even when it is difficult, even when you do not look at me, even when they do not call me father. I'm not here to take anything. I'm here because I finally learned that love is not leaving when you are afraid." Ilara looked at him for a long time. The lantern light flickered across both of their faces. Her voice came slow. "If you stay, then stay. No halfway. No running, no disappearing. Damien nodded. No disappearing. Neither of them noticed Miles watching from the doorway. He had not been asleep after all. He held his small blanket to his chest and whispered quietly into the dark. He sounds like he's telling the truth this time. The days after the storm felt different. The town air was clearer, the ocean calmer. Damien no longer watched from a distance. He walked beside them now, not as a father, not as a man reclaiming love, but as someone learning how to be present without being asked. He helped carry groceries. He fixed the loose step on Ilara's porch. He read stories to the boys at the cafe when Ilara worked late. He did not rush anything. He did not force affection. He simply showed up. Leo accepted him quickly. His laughter came easy. He tugged Damien's hand to show him seashells or to race along the shore. Miles was slower. He watched before trusting, but he began to sit closer. He began to ask small questions. He began to look at Damien in a way that said he was measuring his consistency. Ilara noticed all of it, and something inside her softened, slowly, carefully, like ice melting drop by drop. But the world does not allow peace to settle without testing its strength. It began one afternoon when Leo fell while playing. Not a hard fall, not one that should have mattered. But when Damien lifted him up, a dark purple bruise bloomed across his arm far too quickly. Ilara frowned. That is strange. Leo smiled like nothing was wrong. He ran again. But that night she found another bruise on his leg. Miles noticed too. His little voice whispered in the dim room. Mama, Leo has too many hurts. Ilara tried to breathe steady. She called the small clinic. They gave an appointment for the next morning. The doctor examined Leo with calm hands and careful words. He asked questions that made Ilara's heart tighten. Has he been more tired than usual? Has he had fevers? Has he been bruising often? Ilara felt the room tilt when she realized the answer to all of those was yes. The doctor spoke gently. We need to do blood tests. Ilara nodded. Her fingers were cold. The boys sat quietly. Damien sat beside her. He did not speak. He did not move. But his hand rested close enough that if she reached out, it would be there. When the results came back, the doctor asked them to sit down. The room felt too small, too bright, too silent. The doctor spoke slowly. Leo has acute leukemia. It is treatable. Many children recover. But we must start treatment soon. And we will need to look for a bone marrow match. Ilara's heart stopped. The world blurred. She heard her own breathing, sharp and quick. Miles climbed into her lap. Damien placed one hand on her back, grounding her. The doctor continued. A sibling may be a match, but the highest match is often the biological father. Ilara closed her eyes. She did not cry. She held Leo close and pressed her face into his hair. He smelled like sunlight and childhood, and everything she could not lose. Damien spoke for the first time. His voice did not shake. Test me today. The doctor nodded. When they left the clinic, the town looked the same. People walked. The ocean shimmered. The world moved on. But their world had changed. In the small kitchen that night, Ilara stood with her hands gripping the counter. Her body felt heavy and hollow at the same time. Damien stood behind her. He did not touch her. Say it, she whispered. Say what? Say that this is my fault somehow. Say I should have told you sooner. Say I should have stayed. Say anything. Just do not stand there silently. Damien shook his head. His voice was deep and steady. No blame. No past. Only now. Only what we do next. Ilara turned. Her eyes were full of fear she could not hide. I cannot lose him. Damien finally stepped closer. He did not hold her. He let their foreheads touch. A single connection. A single breath shared. We will not lose him. I'm here now. I'm not leaving. Miles watched from the hallway. His small voice spoke again. The same voice that always saw the truth before anyone else. Then we fight together. The hospital became their world. White walls, soft beeping sounds, the smell of antiseptic and warm blankets. Nurses who spoke gently but moved quickly. Doctors who wore calm faces even when their eyes revealed the gravity of their work. Leo tried to be brave. He always had that fire in him. Even with small arms wrapped in medical tape, even when his energy faded. He still tried to smile for Miles. He still tried to pretend he was not scared. But some nights Alara found him curled against her side, whispering, "Quietly, Mama, it hurts." She held him and whispered, "Back, I know, my love, I am here." Miles stayed close too. He sat by Leo's bed drawing pictures and telling stories. He tried to be strong, but his eyes were always watching everyone. Watching the doctors, watching Alara, watching Damien. He understood more than any child should. Damien was tested immediately. The results came back the next morning. A perfect match, no hesitation, no discussion. He signed every paper they placed in front of him. When the doctor explained the risks, he did not blink. "If my body can save him, then use it." Alara watched him. She could not speak. She had never seen him like this. Not desperate, not dramatic, simply sure. A man who had finally learned what it meant to stand where love demanded. The procedure began. Damien lay on one hospital bed, Leo on another, a thin curtain between them. Alara sat with Leo holding his hand. Miles curled in her lap, his small fingers gripping her shirt tightly. Damien could hear Leo's breathing on the other side of the curtain. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I am right here." Little lion Leo whispered back through a weak voice, "I know." The room remained still as the hours passed. Time did not feel real. Only the sound of machines and the gentle voice of a nurse reminding everyone to breathe. When it was finished, Damien was pale and weak. The procedure had taken more from him than he expected. He tried to sit up, but his vision swayed. Alara turned from Leo's bedside and saw him struggle. Without thinking, she crossed the room and placed a hand on his shoulder to steady him. Their eyes met, close enough to feel shared breath. "You should rest," she said quietly. He shook his head. "Not until I know he is okay." Leo slept peacefully, his small chest rising and falling. The transfer was successful. The nurses monitored him closely and spoke encouraging words to Alara. "There will be hard days, but this is a strong start." Alara nodded, but her strength was held together by threads. When the nurses left the room, she finally let herself sit. Her body felt heavy with exhaustion. Damien watched her. He wanted to speak, but words in moments like this always felt too small. So instead he reached for her, and not to pull her closer, not to ask for forgiveness, just to let her know he was there. Alara did not pull away. She did not look at him. She simply let his hand remain ours. Later, when the boys slept and the hospital wing quieted, Damien woke weak and dizzy in his chair. Alara was watching him with tired eyes. "You should not have given so much," she said. He smiled faintly. "I gave what I should have given years ago." Alara looked down at their joined hands. Her voice was soft. The kind of soft that only comes after surviving storms. "You are changing, Damien." He nodded. "I am trying to become the man I should have been." Then her voice came unstably, like something fragile cracking for the very first time. "If I had told you back then, would you have stayed?" Damien's answer was honest and painful. "I do not know. I want to say yes, but the man I was then was weak, afraid, controlled. I was not ready to love you the way you deserved." Alara closed her eyes. Tears slid silently down her cheeks, not because of pain, but because of truth. Damien reached out and wiped one tear with the gentlest touch she had ever felt. "I cannot rewrite the past," he whispered, "but I am here now. Every day, every breath, for them, and for you, if you will let me be." The hospital lights flickered. Softly Leo slept peacefully. Miles slept, holding his brother's hand. Alara sat beside. A man who had once broken her, and realized this was the first time he had ever truly loved her. Leo's recovery was slow but real. His color returned little by little. His laughter came back in small pieces. The town celebrated quietly, with warm smiles and gentle touches on Alara's shoulder. The nurses adored him. Miles stayed close as always, guarding his brother with quiet loyalty. Damien kept his promise. He did not leave. He moved into a small cottage near theirs, close enough to be present, but far enough to respect boundaries. He showed up for every appointment, for every long night. for every exhausted morning when Ilara could barely stand. When she fell asleep sitting upright, he lifted Leo from her arms and let her rest. When Miles woke scared, Damien held him and whispered stories until he slept again. Days blended into weeks. Healing was slow, not just for Leo but for all of them. One evening, after Leo was cleared to play outside again, the four of them walked along the shoreline. The sky was painted with gold and pink. The waves rolled softly. Leo ran ahead collecting shells. Miles walked between both adults, swinging their hands. Ilara watched Damien quietly. He looked different now, not carved from pressure and expectation, not wearing the armor of wealth. He walked barefoot, wind in his hair, peace settling into his bones. She spoke without turning her head. Your life before, the company, your family. What happened? Damien paused for a moment before answering. I walked away. I signed everything over. I wanted to stay. There was no way to do both. Ilara stopped walking. The waves washed over their feet. She looked at him, with something unreadable in her eyes. You gave up everything. He shook his head slowly. No. I finally stopped holding on to what was killing me. Ilara's throat tightened. She looked at her sons running through the shallow water. She had survived so much. She had carried grief alone. She had raised them alone. She had built her life from the ground up. Yet the truth stood right in front of her. She was tired of being alone, but love could not simply return. It needed to be rebuilt. She took a slow breath. I cannot promise I will ever love you the same way again. Damien nodded. I do not want what we had before. That love broke. I want something new, something that grows from who we are now. Ilara's eyes softened but did not fall. And what if I say I am not ready? Damien stepped closer, but did not touch her. Then I will wait, even if I have to wait forever. Miles let go of their hands and ran to join his brother. The boys splashed water at each other, laughter echoing into the golden air. Ilara watched them, watched the life she had built, watched the man who had finally chosen her without asking anything in return. She spoke quietly. Stay. But stay with truth. No promises you cannot keep. No speeches, just consistency. Damien's voice was steady. Then I will stay. Not to be forgiven, not to fix the past, just to be here. With you, with them, with whatever comes next. They began walking again. The sunset wrapped around them like warmth. Leo ran back and grabbed Damien's hand. Come on, Papa. The ocean is waiting. The word fell into the moment naturally, without force, without explanation. A child does not lie about love. Damien froze. His eyes filled, not with sadness, but with something that felt like returning home after years of wandering. Ilara looked at him then, truly looked, and her heart did not break this time. It opened. She reached for his other hand. Not a reunion, not a forgiveness, but a beginning. Together they walked forward. The ocean breathed beside them. The past stayed behind them. The future waited ahead of them. Love did not come back the way it once was. It came back stronger because this time it had been earned.